on Hogan. So,
Well, okay, it's all right if you want to shit on him. Let's just not call him anything too derogatory. Oh, we're live. All right. So,
all right.
Yeah, we are. I didn't get a code, so yeah, we're live. No
it's
code needed today.
It's not telling me that we're live. Oh, now it's telling me we're live. Well,
it says live to me.
Oh, yeah, I see a little thing on my screen that says live.
Well, you know what? There must be a delay on my end. Okay. All right, then.
All right, Joe. All right. Kick it off then, buddy.
All right. God damn it. I guess we're live, everyone. It's the Four Guys Roundtable show. Hello. How you doing? It's a great evening. It's Saturday, February 13th. Yeah. So we're going to be talking wrestling movies this evening. But until we get to that topic, how are you three jabronis doing? My cohorts, Coach Jeremy, Darth Pat, and AJ Nitro over here.
I am doing fantastic, baby.
I could be better, and we'll leave it at that.
Well, when you go to the dark side, anybody on the dark side could be better. So yeah, I definitely believe that.
So
more positivity in your life.
Joe, what do you think about your girl getting canned from The Mandalorian?
Well, she got fired. So
I'm sorry, we're not going to talk about that subject because it crosses over into politics.
I mean, we can
skirt
along the edge just briefly. I just know to see what Joe.
Well, she posted what she posted, and listen, it is free speech, but free speech protects you from, other things, and your employer can fire you if they do not feel they support your free speech. So it is what it is. I'm not gonna get too much into it, but Disney felt like doing it. There's a lot of different avenues you can go in regards to it, but
my guess is that Disney told her to tone it down after some of the stuff that happened a few months ago, and she decided to keep poking the bear. So eventually that bear gonna bite your head off.
Yeah, I mean, she's gonna make some independent movie, so good for her. We'll see what that comes of that, and move forward.
That's
so we're probably not going to get that extra spin-off that was supposed to feature her, or maybe we will. They might just put somebody else in there, change it up. But
I heard Lucy Lawless potentially.
Well,
that would be terrible.
I wouldn't count on them. I wouldn't really count on them necessarily recasting that role until you've heard word that, hey, they're recasting the role.
I don't think they will.
As far as that other spinoff, I doubt they will cancel that just because she's not involved with it anymore. I think they'll still. I think they still fully intend to go through with that. So.
Yeah, they probably will. They'll just, cut her role out. I don't think they'll recast her. They're just going to cut her role out and add somebody into the mix of that specific spin-off, and then move on from there, really. That's what I think is just going to happen. I don't think it's had that big of a ramification in regards to it.
Yeah. So I wanted to say I have been working diligently on taking all our CWA stuff and migrating it over to my Mac so I can edit it and put all the pieces together. And I must say, I have one awesome montage put together so far.
Did we find the first leg drop yet?
We did not. And I don't want to give it away, but you kind of did there, AJ. It's okay. But it is one of Mr. Darth Pat doing a particular move.
In its moments.
So, I mean, I have had quite the chuckles going back and watching some of the stuff that we did where we were imitating other wrestlers. That was probably the funniest stuff that I remember doing, just because it was so bad as far as like we look nothing like the wrestlers. Like there's no comparison. Like
Joe looked a little bit like the Undertaker, but
at least the hair.
They had long hair back in the day.
More so than the rest of us did.
Yes, I definitely did not look anything like The Rock because I am not a 6'3" black man. So Yeah.
I have always looked like Hulk Hogan.
No, you've always looked like the Big Show.
Particularly around the abdominal. Yes.
Big Show and Big Show only.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about that.
Oh man, that's funny.
Well,
There probably was a lot of humorous stuff that you rewatched, and when we get to that episode, fans are gonna have a joyful time looking at our ridiculousness and the crazy shit that was. That's for sure.
Yes,
and
indeed.
just so everybody knows, the CWA, we're not talking about the Continental Wrestling Association, which was, the old Memphis territory back in the day. So, yeah, we were not old enough to participate in that CWA.
We're talking about the Champs Wrestling Alliance. That's what, with a Z.
Oh, just a sec. Mr. Joe Theo, I need you to allow me to share a screen real quick. I just want to share a little something.
You want to share a screen? I thought I didn't have to let you do that shit anymore.
Nope, you let me record, but I need to share a screen for just a moment.
Oh boy.
Oh, try it out now. Does that let you do it?
Yes, it does. So,
oh Jesus. Is this a little tidbit?
This is a little tidbit for our friends here. Just a sec.
Oh boy. Oh no. I don't even know if I want to look at this right now.
Like I said, it's
on the other screen here.
Well, you know something, Ultimate Warrior? The last time you locked horns with me and all my NWOites, dude, Hollywood prevailed.
Love it.
So there's a little tidbit for our friends.
Like I said, the resemblance was uncanny.
You sounded like him.
Oh.
I watched that in its entirety because I do love your Hogan. I think you do a really good Hogan impression.
I do too. I will never take that away from Pat.
And you said brother probably about 15 times in that promo. Ooh, brother. One time you said brother and then brother again.
if I recall correctly,
I told him
we were kind of we were wanting to point out the absurdity.
Oh, I'm sure we were. I'm sure there was a reason for it. I just had to laugh because of how many times you said brother. I was like dying.
Well, I mean, I was probably, because we said, okay, let's kind of turn up the parody meter here a bit. I was probably thinking of the Shawn Michaels, Larry King promo, from the build up to the SummerSlam match. So that was probably in my head of saying, let's see if I can, not out brother Michaels from that promo, because there was nothing there was no way to out brother Michaels in that promo, since I think he said brother 7 words in a row at one point in that. But to kind of go for that without maybe making it obvious, but
there was an interview.
Just a sec. I've got one even better before you continue that thought. This is probably my favorite promo of all time.
Oh no.
What?
Christ.
Are we embarrassing me? Yeah, it is.
Well,
Yeah.
Look at the beard.
I am a 10-time WWE champion. And in a couple hours, I will be a 1-time CWA champion.
Thanks, Jeremy.
No problem.
Love it.
Don't worry. When it comes time for when we do this episode,
over.
Yeah, that is my.
So
don't worry. I got plenty of promos from this particular show that we did. It's just awesome. Like Joe's Warrior promo, awesome. He never even turns around at the camera. He's just facing the wall the whole time.
Good. I won't feel so bad when I see it. I haven't seen that in ages. Oh,
probably early 2000, I saw an interview with Mo Lewis when he played for the Jets, and he said most definitely 30 times in the interview. He just kept saying most definitely. Jay and me were watching it together, and he's just like, this is ridiculous. Does he know how to say anything other than that?
There's Sorry, I was distracted by something on my computer screen related to the Mandalorian that we were just talking about.
He was looking at himself dressed up as Hulk Hogan. Don't lie.
No.
He screenshot that shit.
This is from something that shows up on my Facebook feed from some Star Wars fan site. It's like an opening crawl type thing. It says the Mandalorian season 3. Cara Dune crashed her X-wing and died. LOL.
That's terrible.
It, So
that's funny.
Sorry,
though.
I just saw that, so I just thought it was funny.
What are
And
you
now
going to say anyways, Pat?
I don't remember now.
Okay.
That's great. Fantastic. Maybe you can come back to it at a later date.
All that build up for nothing. God.
That's what she said.
It's funny.
I think that's what we said as we were walking out of WrestleMania.
Yes, that is. That is definitely what I said for sure.
Oh my God.
I think it's really like, I'm going to change the subject a little bit here.
Yep.
I think it's really, personally, if Tom Brady wins the Super Bowl and he wants to get drunk at the parade, I don't think it's that big of a deal. So I think that it's really stupid that people are like, oh my God, he's drunk at the parade. He just won his 7th championship. If he wants to have a good time, I think he's allowed.
Yeah, like those people that are watching the parade never got drunk before.
It was kind of funny to see him sloppy drunk. It was kind of funny to see him very tipsy and wobbly.
Yeah, what the hell? Like, there's people that go out to the freaking bar still and get plastered that are older than we are. Like, come on. Like, just because
watching the Super Bowl, getting drunk, watching the Super Bowl, and then what? You see people like burn shit after teams win the Super Bowl. So we can have a whole topic conversation with that one.
Like, I get to a point where I get tired of people holding like celebrities and stuff to a higher standard than everybody else. Like, just because he's a football player, he's not allowed to drink, not allowed to have fun.
Right.
Like, come on.
Not allowed to have fun at a parade. Who?
I was waiting for someone really to like toss the Super Bowl trophy into the water, and
that would have been hilarious. That would have been absolutely hilarious.
I was waiting for somebody to like miss and not be able to toss it from one boat to the other.
That's why they didn't throw it to Gronk, because they said Gronk's not allowed to touch it. Because he put a dent in it, apparently. So they said Gronk's not allowed to touch it.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Gronk.
Yeah, I had to laugh because when we watched the Super Bowl and they showed Gronk like during the national anthem, he looks like the most confused dude I've ever seen. He's just like this, got like this stare that's like, where am I? Am I playing football? I think I'm playing football. Yes. Yes, that's where I'm on a football field. Yes. Like, it's just the funniest thing to watch. He's like, looks clueless.
He's an interesting character.
Like, I don't think he's dumb, but he just looks like that. Like, that look that he has on his face is just like priceless.
So what you're saying is he was that one character from the Tom Hanks version of the Lady Killers.
Yes.
I never saw that, so I can't say yes or no.
The guy that played Gary Bertier on Remember the Titans, that guy, right? From the Lady Killers.
Oh, okay. I know. I at least know the character that you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I remembered what I was going to say before now, but it's not important anymore. So.
Okay, good, because we didn't want to hear it anyways.
It's just about like somebody on a podcast that I listen to who constantly repeats the same phrase like over and over again. But I think somebody kind of told him he did it a lot, and so he's like stopped doing it since then. But like he would always like when he would talk to his co-host, and his co-host would make a point, and then like it would come back to him, and he would just like, "Yep, 100%, 100%."
A lot of 100%.
I mean, someone would probably say some words or phrases over.
No, most definitely.
And over again and over again.
Don't start adding percentages together, guy. We don't need to start adding percentages together. We don't need a Scott Steiner promo here. So
I think we all can do math, though. Steiner,
I would love. So I'm going to just put this out there for everybody that watches. If you're a wrestling fan and you have never seen the Scott Steiner math promo from TNA, with Scott with PD Williams in it. You got to go back and watch that. That is like the funniest promo ever, just because Scott Steiner, I don't know if he takes himself seriously in that promo, but it almost seems like it. I don't know if he's that good an actor. I don't think he is, but I almost believe he thinks the math is right, considering he like somehow gets to 1,000% when he's only trying to get to 100%. It's absolutely insane, but it is a great, great laugh. And I'd love to play it for everybody, but, copyrights would get us in a lot of trouble, especially since we're live, so we can't edit it out, so be a little bit of a problem. But yeah,
hey, Pat, when you texted the other night and said that was a bad ending, I'm assuming you were referring to the Jericho match.
Yes.
Why? I actually wasn't watching that match at the time. I went back and watched. Was it just a bad ending because Chris Jericho's finishing maneuver is terrible?
Partially.
Yes, his finisher is bad, Pat. It's pretty awful.
They hit him in the head with the boombox, and he kicks out of that. So what's the point of having hit him in the head with the boombox?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I know it's not a thing that like faces are supposed to do to heels, though I don't even know if that other team are necessarily faces.
They're like tweeners. They're like tweeners.
Because like they weren't coming off as like faces really, but even so, it's like if you're going to be hitting somebody in the head with an object from the outside, then that should be the end of the match, especially on television. So,
is that all you watched, Pat? Just that, or?
It was about it. I think I caught the segment before that, and like I saw Sammy Guevara come out and quit, and then I was just like, man, click. Well, whatever they said was coming up next didn't sound like it was all that interesting to me. Again, I'm still intending to try to give it a shot, but I wasn't.
You weren't interested in Kenny and Kenta against Moxley, and because that actually was pretty entertaining.
Don't remember them mentioning that. If they had mentioned that while I was watching,
there must have been something before.
I might have stuck around for that, but I don't remember.
It was a Falls Count Anywhere match too. So there was although it was really weird because in the middle of the match, they were like, let's go back and look at some highlights from the first half of the match. It was really weird.
It's a good time to do that.
Right, Joe? That was really weird.
They pulled like a weird WWE thing in the middle of the match.
It was almost like they needed to get Moxley, and I think it was Moxley and Kenta out of where they were. So they were like, let's stop rolling the camera. Let's show some highlights from the beginning of the match. It was really strange, Pat. I don't know if I've seen that in a long time.
So as opposed to Raw at 9:00, recapping what happened when the show started at 8:00.
And then they do it again at 10:00 too.
Yes, they were recapping I'm just going to throw out times here. At 9:50, what had happened in the match at 9:42?
9:35, probably, yes.
Yeah.
It was really strange, Pat. It was really strange. Like, I don't know why, other than to get them out of the room they were in. I couldn't figure out why they did that. Just
contemplating that is, I feel an aneurysm coming on. So
it was really cool on SmackDown last night. Like Roman he's so good right now, and he's like Adam Pearce is like got a contract, and Roman's like, yeah, I'm not wrestling in the Elimination Chamber. You can pick 6 guys and put them in the Elimination Chamber, and then I'll fight the winner. But I'm not wrestling in the chamber. So he's like, you do my bidding. I don't listen to you. Like he's playing that guy perfectly right now. So I just don't know where Roman Reigns on the microphone was 3 years ago, because clearly he knows what to do with the microphone in his hand. I don't know what was going on 3 years ago.
It's harder to be a babyface.
They just wanted to script everything for him too.
Yeah. We know that happens with WWE. They overscript everything. They don't allow guys to sound like themselves. but it's easier as a heel to sound like yourself because I think they more script the baby faces, because the baby faces are always the ones that talk about where the pay-per-view is going to be. They got to talk about the Twitter and all those other bullshit things that you really don't have to remind people about. If they're watching WWE, they probably fucking know your Twitter handle. They probably know when your next pay-per-view is and everything, unless it's a brand new fan, which I don't think they're getting that many new fans anymore. Like I don't think they're really attracting new fans, at least not ones that have never, the fans that they're attracting, I think that are new are ones that are like have families that watch, like mom and dads or brothers, sisters, whatever. I don't think they're attracting a brand new crowd of people from like nowhere. I have a hard time believing that. I'm probably completely wrong, but I really have a hard time believing that with the product that they're putting out consistently. It's not a great product.
We also got the fabulousness Monday night that is Nia Jax. So
there you go.
I knew that was coming up at some point.
She has had some of the greatest like moments that weren't planned ever. Like when she punched Becky and busted her open. The other night, Jeremy, she got dropped on her ass and she stood up and said, "My hole."
She did.
Now, I will say this. I was telling my dad about that this afternoon.
My hole.
And you know what he asked me?
No.
Which one?
So like, and the thing about it too is that like the day after it happened, like they were like pulling it out of the replays, but now they've changed their minds. Oh, we're gonna run with this because on SmackDown last night they showed the replay of it and the part, and she says it loud, Jeremy. It's not like she said "my hole." She's like "my hole."
Yeah, she legit says it loud. It's loud as shit. It's so funny. Oh man.
So she hurts people, but she's also had some of the greatest unscripted moments.
That's awesome. Keep her on TV just for the fun. Don't let her wrestle. Just put her on TV and let's see what happens. But yeah, that's nuts.
I knew I thought it was hilarious. I was laughing when I'm like, this is fucking great. So
I was listening to before we get started on our actual topic here. I was listening to a little bit of sports radio today as I was driving around, and I was not surprised to hear that the Phillies have done almost absolutely nothing to make their team better. They are pretty much still the same team. They did get rid of Jake Arrieta. They traded him away, which was a good thing because he was not performing for them.
He signed with the Cubs again, 1-year deal or some jazz for like $6 or $7 million.
Suckers.
He's gonna be like our 6th starter at this point.
Well, there you go. As long as he's not in the permanent four main guys. So
I had no idea what my team's doing this year either.
But yeah, they got, I think, 2 bullpen guys or some shit like that. Like I couldn't even tell you their names. They're not trying. And they're in as the radio show was saying, they're probably in one of the toughest divisions in the National League, if not the toughest in the National League, with the Braves, the Nationals, the Mets. Like as far as like at least on paper, they're talking because we haven't seen any of them play yet. So
Mets just upgraded their team this year too. But then again, that's new ownership with new money, so they're not being affected by last year's results.
Yeah. So it'll be an interesting baseball season. It's a lot of games. They're going to play all 162 games this year. So
that's their intent.
Their intent, yes.
Who the hell knows?
Yeah, we'll see. All right. So I think
real quick though, I want you guys,
go ahead.
Don't answer this, but I want you guys to ponder this. So next time we do, you can think about this for a week. I saw this the other day. I thought it was
2 days.
Pretty interesting. So if you could pick one wrestling match to like erase from your memory and you have no idea what it was, and then you could go back and watch it again, what match would you pick? So
good Lord.
Like I said, you don't have to next time. I just put it out there so you can think about it for a week.
Are we talking about good or bad match?
Like
What?
a match that we enjoyed that we would want to see again, fresh for the first time.
Yes, that's kind of
Or-
where this I believe this is going. Like when I saw it, most of that's what all the answers were. They were matches that people really enjoyed and they would like to go through again. So that's the idea. Yes.
That's really, really tough. I mean, I would have no idea.
That's why I'm going to give you. I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm giving you a week to think about it. So
Yeah, I'll definitely I might need a month.
I definitely wish I could go back and relive that Sting Jeff Hardy match.
Oh God.
That's a joke. I've never actually watched.
I know.
the Brock Lesnar Goldberg match for me, I could go back and relive that. So.
Yeah.
And you were there live.
All right.
So
I think
next week we'll bring that up again next week. So.
and bring that, because you might want to have to send me a text message and remind me because I'm bound to forget that question. But all right, so I think it's a good time to get started with our podcast. Before we do, though, we just want to say a couple words to our viewers, and that is, if you are catching this on YouTube, please go back. Make sure you are hitting the like button, clicking on those notifications, because we are going to start doing a lot more lives than what we're doing, and you do not want to miss an episode live because it is much more fun to interact with us than just sit there and watch us. I mean, we're pretty entertaining, but interacting with us, you can become part of the show, which is always more fun for you and more fun for us. So don't forget to hit the like, notifications, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss anything. And if you're not catching us on YouTube and you're catching us on some other kind of streaming audio version like iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or even Amazon Music, if I could talk, we want to thank you for tuning in, and we really appreciate it. So with that, our topic today is, Theo, what?
Wrestling movies, wrestlers and wrestling movies. Because you like wrestling.
Some wrestling movies. So not wrestling movies, but wrestlers that are in movies, right?
Yes.
Whatever. Same thing.
I just want to make sure, because I was like, I did some
this, Darth Pat.
Yeah, so Mr. Darth Pat over here was picky. So we were doing our Mount Rushmore. He kind of turned me down to my pick. I felt very upset. I was hurt. My butthole didn't hurt like Nia Jax, but I was definitely still hurt about it. And I had to rethink it.
My hole.
You done? You done now?
Yeah, I guess so.
You done whining?
Yes.
Okay. As I was trying to say, because we have a tendency to ramble and go off on tangents, and then it's just of maybe keeping this to under 2 hours. Probably doubtful. We're already half an hour into this bullshit.
I'm pointing right below because that's where you are.
Yep, same here. You're below me. That's why I was pointing.
I got to go diagonal for AJ.
Joe's on top of Jeremy on my screen. So anyway,
hey, nobody's on top of me, sucker.
Don't really want to know about that.
Nobody puts baby in the corner. Wanted to keep it focused more towards wrestlers and movies as opposed to wrestling movies. That way we can focus on when our favorite, and maybe not so favorite, Squared Circle competitors venture over onto the silver screen, as opposed to, again, movies being made about wrestling. So The Wrestler, even though it does feature some real life wrestlers in it, Nacho Libre, stuff like that, we're really not trying to focus on so much. We're trying to focus on, again, when the combatants of the Squared Circle go to the silver screen and generally make monstrous asses out of themselves.
So with that,
B-rated,
So with that being said, I want to start off with talking about probably the very first movie I've ever seen that starred a wrestler, and that was No Holds Barred.
But wait.
I said that I saw. I said that I saw.
For we cannot start there, unfortunately.
I said that I saw. I didn't say that everybody else saw. I said the first movie I ever saw.
Being the semi-historian of this group, I just want to give the whole big, real quick. So
that's like an oxymoron with Pat.
I ain't no oxmoron.
Yeah, but this is going to be such good shit.
We'll let the audience be the judge of that.
So,
You're on a timer.
Wrestlers are something that did not actually really start so much here in the United States. It's really more of a thing that started in Mexico. You had some of the legendary luchadors like El Santo and Blue Demon and Mil Mascaras were making movies all the way back in the 60s. And I shit you not, in a lot of these movies, they were fighting zombies and vampires. Again, I shit you not. That's what these fucking movies were about.
That's terrible. Already.
I have never seen
Joe.
I've never seen any movies. I don't know how available they might be, but you can certainly look them up and try to find them. But seriously, you did.
I would hope that every copy of those has ever been burned.
I kind of doubt that, but you never know. You never know. So the next kind of big movie that I guess was ever made, especially in the United States, that really featured wrestlers was another movie that was called The Wrestler. This was made in the early 70s, and it starred Ed Asner, who I'm sure a lot of people know who that is. He's been an actor for years. He's still working now in his 90s. But it was a movie that was made with basically the stars of the AWA, and it featured Vern Gagne and Billy Robinson as two wrestlers who were friends, who were kind of going up against each other to have a match against each other. Here are some of the wrestlers who also appeared in that movie: Don Morocco, Danny Hodge, Vincent McMahon Sr., The Crusher, Dusty Rhodes, Wahoo McDaniel, Nick Bockwinkel, Superstar Billy Graham, Ric Flair, Dick Murdoch, Greg Gagne, Eddie Graham, Larry the Axe Hennig, Ken Patera, Jumping Jim Brunzell, Dory Funk Jr., and Pedro Morales. Now, here's the funny thing. They all played themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Vern Gagne and Billy Robinson played characters. And the reason I bring that up is going to be because of No Holds Barred, which we'll get to then. The movie, I don't know how successful it really was. The only time I've ever seen it has been in clips from the AWA produced documentary that WWE did back in the mid 2000s. I found some clips on YouTube. There's this one clip of Dusty Rhodes and Dick Murdoch beating the hell out of Odd Job from the James Bond movies.
Ooh.
In a bar. Seriously. There's a bar fight scene between these guys. I don't know why Odd Job suddenly shows up in this movie, but he does. And there's a scene with Vern Gagne and Billy Robinson eating dinner, and two other wrestlers are with them. And one of them is Ric Flair, and you will not recognize Ric Flair because he is not blonde. And it's when he was in his kind of early days, before the plane crash. And this is when he was in the upper 200-pound range. He was much more muscular than the Ric Flair that we were accustomed to seeing for all those years.
He was beefy.
Joe, go fuck yourself. Put the phone down.
You just had 3 minutes and 20 seconds. I just want to see if he gets that under these 5 minutes. That's his goal.
Yeah. After The Wrestler, there wasn't really a movie that was made that really was say about wrestling that had a lot of wrestlers in it until Body Slam in the mid 80s. I don't know if you guys ever saw that.
I've heard of it. I never saw it.
Seen that one.
Yeah, it starred a couple of classic 80s people in Dirk Benedict and the recently deceased Tanya Roberts. But in that movie, you had Roddy Piper playing Quick Rick Roberts. Try saying that name 10 times fast. Quick Rick.
Quick Rick.
Captain Lou Albano played Captain Lou Morano. Probably because, Lou Albano was out of the legally. The Wild Samoans were also in it. The Barbarian was in it, playing Axe the Cannibal. Great name. And Sam Fatu, who was the Tonga Kid, and Tama in WWE, plays Tonga Tom, who I believe partnered with Roddy Piper in the movie. So I've seen bits and pieces of that from HBO years ago, but it's been a very, very long time, unfortunately. And the other one I wanted to point out, it's it's not a wrestling movie, but it's just interesting because it features the wrestlers in it. Have you ever seen the original Highlander?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. At pretty much the beginning of that match, I believe the Highlander, it's like when it's in the present day, he goes to like a wrestling match, and there's a wrestling match that's taking on or that's going on where it's the Fabulous Freebirds. So it's Michael Hayes, Terry Gordy, and Buddy Roberts. They're wrestling the trio of Greg Gagne, Sam Fatu, and Jim Brunzell. So I don't know if that was filmed specifically for that movie or not, but it's just kind of funny that the movie kind of opens with this 6-man tag match and you've got the Fabulous Freebirds in it.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of different like appearances from like wrestlers kind of like making like one-off appearances. Like Andre the Giant was in Conan the Destroyer. There's a very amusing picture you can find online of Andre, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Wilt Chamberlain from backstage from that movie, where Chamberlain and Andre are both like holding Arnold up with one arm each. And it's the only time you'll ever find a picture where Arnold Schwarzenegger looks like a midget.
With those two, yeah.
He looks freaking tiny compared to Wilt Chamberlain and Andre the Giant, so that's kind of amusing. Obviously Andre was in The Princess Bride. That's pretty famous, and kind of ironic that by the time the movie came out, Andre had turned heel. So because he plays such a good guy character in the movie, but
yeah,
he's become the ultimate, number one heel in the company by then. But from there, well, Vince McMahon being Vince McMahon, he decided it was time for him to branch out into movies, and figuring that, hey, if somebody's going to make a wrestling movie, it's gonna be me.
Nice.
And that led us to
No Holds Bar.
No Holds Bar.
Yes, indeed.
Take it away.
Oh yeah. So
7 minutes, 18 seconds. Not too bad. Not too shabby.
No, that's
I knew you were still timing it. So.
That's passable.
Nice. Nice. Aye.
That was very good, Pat.
Yes. So it's interesting. No Holds Barred. Now, when I watched it back in the day when I was a kid and watched it, I was like, this is fucking awesome, Hulk Hogan. And
we all were. We were kids.
Yeah. And it was like, you're watching this and you're like, oh man, Hulk Hogan's so cool, and he's fighting Zeus with the weird eye, and even as a kid I was laughing at that because I thought it was funny as shit that he couldn't look him straight in the face. He had to kind of cock his head to the side.
He had something wrong with his eye. That's why
I know. Yeah. No, I know that. I knew that. Well, I didn't know that as a kid. I know that now, but it was still funny as a kid. But probably the most memorable line of that movie that I can remember, and I'm going to ask Pat to do it in his sweet Hogan voice, is Darth Pat.
What's that smell?
And then the guy that he's holding says, Dookie.
Yeah.
Funny.
Like, he can't even say shit or poop. He says Dookie. Like, who the hell talks like that even back then? But, but it was like that movie, to go back and watch it now, it's like, man, this is so bad. Like, it's not good acting by either Zeus or Hogan.
It was bad. But I remember watching it as a kid, and I was like, this movie is like, the whole movie is, meant for the build-up of that match that they have. But still, I'm watching this, and I'm just like, there were some funny parts in there, but I'm just kind of like, this is such like a B-rated movie, or even a D-rated movie. I'm like, this is odd. Like, I found it kind of humorous at some point, but I'm still like, was a little bit old enough to know, like, this is just odd. Not not my movie. I would be like, yeah, let's go see this movie.
I think it was cool because it was a movie with a wrestler in it. I don't even know if, as the kid, really looking back, if I really liked the movie. I just think it was cool that there was a movie with a wrestler in it. I think it was more the idea to me personally than it was the actual movie. And for Vince to turn it into a pay-per-view then with the movie, the match in the movie.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, he did.
Or as Bruce Pritchard has said it many times on his podcast, that they did these promos for the whole pay-per-view thing that they did with it, like, the match, the movie. It was like Vince, and he was like, why have a Merry Christmas when you can have a no-holds-barred Christmas? Pritchard's done that on his podcast many times. Actually, Pritchard on his podcast, they just did like a watch along at the end of December. They did like a watch along of the movie, and so they were adding like a lot of stuff. What's kind of also interesting about No Holds Barred, we talk about again, wrestlers and movies. You see Jesse Ventura and Gene Okerlund and Howard Finkel all basically playing themselves. Playing the commentators and the ring announcer. At the beginning of the movie, Hogan, whose character is named, I know he's named Rip. Did they ever even give him a last name? I was about to say Rip.
I don't remember if they did.
No.
So yeah, I can't remember if they give him a last name or not. But anyway,
I don't think so.
And his name's Rip.
Yeah, at the beginning of the movie, he's wrestling a guy named Jake Bullet, who's actually Bill Eadie, who we better know as Acts of Demolition.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously Zeus. Tiny Lister, who played Zeus. He wasn't really a wrestler, but he kind of sort of became one. Joey Morella, who was Gorilla Monsoon's stepson and was a referee in WWF. He's the referee at one point. And then, of course, you get Stan Hansen in the movie. He's like the Neanderthal guy in the bar that the evil network executives go to when they're trying to recruit somebody to take Rip out or whatever, and Hansen's like the one that they kind of come up on. And there was the guy who played Bane in Batman and Robin, Jeep Swenson, who they also WCW also used in that very terrible match where Hogan and Savage beat every heel on the roster.
And that's where Tiny Lister was the gangsta.
Yes. They brought him back to so he's one of like the I think bar brawling guys in No Holds Barred too. But yeah, you're definitely right in that was really the first time. I mentioned all those other movies, and again, we of course weren't around when The Wrestler came out, and all those other movies I really mentioned, the wrestlers who were in them were not the main characters. They were the secondary characters. This was really the first time you had a movie that was about wrestling that starred a wrestler, and so that's what definitely made it cool, and that's what you definitely had the appeal to it. But also, kind of what Joe said, yeah, it's very much a B movie at best. I mean, you can really you don't have any big stars in it. I mean, Joan Severance, who was the female character, I mean, her career I think kind of petered out sometime in the mid '90s. Kurt Fuller, who played the evil network executive Brel, I mean, he was in the first Wayne's World. He's been in a lot of different stuff in his career. He's very much a character actor, but he's not like an A-list character actor or anything.
No.
And one of his underlings was David Paymer, who's another guy who's been around for years. He's been in countless movies and TV shows. He's one of those guys who, like, if you don't know his name, you definitely know his face and his voice and everything. But yeah, it's very much a B movie, and that's kind of the problem, is that supposedly Vince and Hogan were so upset with the script that was turned in that they checked themselves into some hotel suite and wrote the screenplay over a weekend. And
that's terrible.
Yeah, horrible. You almost have to wonder sometimes, how much blow did they go through in order to get it done? It just,
Nice.
but it just really becomes so much of a B movie. And one thing that I never really kind of got, which they pointed out on Pritchard's podcast, his host, Conrad Thompson pointed out, you could almost take the Burrell character as being a takeoff on Ted Turner, because supposedly they filmed like those office scenes in Atlanta, where of course we know WCW was based, and he was like, I want you on my network and my thing, and I'm trying to buy you, basically. And of course, that's what Ted Turner did when WCW, they just bought all of WWE stars and blah, blah, blah. So you almost wonder if subconsciously it was that, because when they would have been making this movie, it would have been right about the time where Ted Turner had bought Jim Crockett Promotions and, turned it into WCW and everything. So I found that kind of an interesting take.
Yeah.
But there are entertaining parts of that movie, but it's just so over the top and it's so B movie that it kind of it didn't do a lot for the potential of wrestlers and movies as a whole.
Right. Well, let's I want to move. AJ, go ahead. Sorry.
I'll make this really simple. The best movie Hogan was ever in was Rocky III when he played Thunder Lips. That was the best in the movie. It's not even an argument. I don't think that was the best he's ever done in a movie. So
no, and I think it definitely is. And the funny thing about that, of course, is that Vince Sr. fired him from WWF because he wanted to do the movie, and Vince Sr. didn't want him to. So then after he's done with the movie, he goes to AWA. Vern Gagne initially keeps him as a heel, which he had been, but then turns him face. He starts getting really hot. You could argue Hulkamania was born, but then Vern doesn't want to put the AWA title on him. And then Vince Jr. comes knocking, and then we all know where it went from there.
Yeah. So just kind of sticking with Hogan and his awesome montage of movies. If I remember correctly, the next movie we got from him was The Nanny.
Mr. Nanny, which was absolutely terrible. And then there was Suburban Commando, I believe, too.
Yes. I will say this to you, and this might come as a big surprise to you guys. I have never watched Mr. Nanny.
Neither have I.
Neither have I.
I think it's because after whatever memories I had of No Holds Barred, and then definitely Suburban Commando, because I definitely watched Suburban Commando, which of course also features The Undertaker. I think I was just like, he doesn't make good movies. And I was still only like 11 or 12 years old when those movies were coming out. And even then I was like, these aren't good movies. I don't want to watch Mr. Nanny. I think the ironic thing about Mr. Nanny is that you could almost argue that it got remade with Vin Diesel.
Yes, it did.
Yeah,
100%. I don't care what anybody says. That was a remake of Mr. Nanny. They just called it something different.
We also had Hogan and Thunder in Paradise.
Well, I mean, that
was better.
Yeah.
It was. I think they had a good supporting actor to help Hogan's lead role.
Oh, it's
In
Jack
the
Lemmon.
TV series he was in too. I mean, that's a little bit different.
Jack Lemmon's son was his co-star in Thunder in Paradise. So
Yeah.
kind of funny. Now, I will say this for Hogan, because this is kind of like if I were to write like some like big paper analyzing this.
Are you going to tell us this paper right now?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. The gist of it. Hogan in movies was, he always insisted every movie that he was in made money. I really don't know if you can really prove that or not. No Holds Barred, if you look it up on IMDb, if you see like its budget and its box office gross, it made money, but the budget doesn't tell you everything about what goes into the cost of making a movie. So
right,
it's hard to say.
I mean, did they make money? Yeah. Did they make a profit? That's the other thing.
Right. Well, I think when Hogan says they made money, I think in Hoganese that means
Hoganese.
But I don't know.
Hogan was a face. They were trying to make family-oriented movies with him in it. They did with all the wrestlers. I mean, The Rock and the Tooth Fairy.
Yeah.
A kids movie. Let's put the wrestlers in kids movies. It seemed like they wanted to put several wrestlers in like kids movies and just see how that works. It's like, guys, that's not really what you should do with professional wrestlers in wrestling movies.
So I think we should stay on.
There is that tendency, but just trying to finish up with Hogan here real quick. I mean, he made so many movies then in his WCW days, like Santa with Muscles and
Oh my God,
Assault on Devil's Island and Assault on Death Mountain, where he played the same character in Three Ninjas.
It was better to just not bring those up.
Yeah, Three Ninjas, High Noon, and Mega Mountain. I've seen parts of a couple of those. Basically, what it comes down to is he went back and forth between trying to make like Jeremy said, like family oriented kids movies and like these like B action movies, and they couldn't ever really, kind of pick one. Then there was this one he made called Mackenzie's Island, which co-starred Robert Vaughn and Grace Jones, which I'm pretty sure it was direct to video. I saw it on, I don't remember if it was TNT or HBO. It's actually mildly amusing because I think the director of that movie, about halfway through filming it, realized that it was just ridiculous to the nth degree. So he kind of like turned it up to 11 as far as like the tongue-in-cheek humor. So it actually ended up being semi-watchable, but it was still just like, overly ridiculous, to the nth degree. My whole point is that I think the concept, though, of Hulk Hogan in movies, like I said, didn't do a lot.
He sucked in movies. That's it. He sucked in movies.
I think what it was, too, I don't know if it was necessarily his fault for picking bad projects or if it was just they just gave him shit and that people weren't really taking the concept of wrestlers in movies seriously. Put it this way. They didn't do it with Hulk Hogan. And what Hulk Hogan's probably greatest moment in cinema history is his Gremlins 2 cameo.
That or Thunder Lips.
Yeah. All right. So kind of sticking on the WWE train with their attempt at making their own movies. We then, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm sure I'm missing something. I think their next attempt was the Marine, where they tried to.
They came out with their own like studio. Like they came out with WWE Studios eventually. Like
right, but wasn't the Marine like their next like feature
that was their
film
first endeavor, I believe.
I think I think that was WWE. That might have been WWE Films' first big like theatrical movie, because I think that was also at a time then where they're like, all right, we're not doing direct to video anymore. We're going big. We're going for the theaters now. So I think the Marine might have been that, but before we got to the Marine, you had really when The Rock really started branching out into movies. That kind of happened before the Marine did.
Yeah, but I'm talking about actually like WWE like influenced movies, because WWE had their name on movies for The Rock and for The Rock just because he was still The Rock and had that name attached, so they had to put WWE on there. WWE didn't do fucking shit for those movies. Their name's just there. So I'm not going to include those. I want to talk about like
I think we should talk about The Rock separately anyway.
Yeah.
I think he should be like the last thing we talk about anyway. So,
but I'm more referring to like movies that WWE actually really did produce,
like See No Evil.
Yeah, See No Evil, terrible.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to get to real quick. See No Evil was actually the first one that got released. That beat the Marine to theaters by about 5 months back in 2006.
Right, and I mean, granted, they did Kane a favor that I don't think they had any talking parts for him, so he only had to be big and scary, kind of like he is in the wrestling ring. But we get the Marine, okay.
And the best. The best scene in the Marine, I'm already telling you already, is when he pulls the car into the gas station and they shoot the tires out, and then at the end of the scene the car pulls away like the tires were never shot out. He floors it out of the gas station parking lot. Apparently the tires got inflated during the battle.
They had the no deflate tires on that car.
Should we put some new tires on this car right quick so we can drive off and have an action scene?
These things happen.
I do think that they saw. I think somewhere somebody saw something with Cena, as an actor. I think somewhere somebody saw something like, okay, maybe there's something there with this guy.
Yes, because let's not, if we go back to what Cena did, Cena at that time had, I think, turned heel and been heel for turned face, sorry, had been face for maybe a year or so, maybe two before the Marine came out. So it wasn't like, he had, and it was still in the era when they had the ability to really be themselves on the mic. So you had a lot of charisma and a lot of attitude, which is what The Rock brought to the mic. He was definitely levels above Cena, but I think that's what they saw in him, and they said, let's put him in a movie. Well, the Marine wasn't terrible in terrible, but it definitely was no way good. It's still a B movie at best.
It's a B-rated action
12
movie.
rounds.
All of them have been.
I think 12 rounds was better than the Marine. I think I liked that one better than the Marine. That came out a couple years later.
Yeah, 12 Rounds was a better movie for Cena. The Reunion was a horrible movie for him. But like all five, I don't know, 6 maybe Marines now.
6 Marines.
There's all of them are just B-rated action movies. You have The Miz, Randy Orton. The Miz played again. I forget, one of the female wrestlers was in one of them. I think I forget which one it was.
So here's your lead characters for the role of the Marine. You had John Cena started off. Then you had Ted DiBiase Jr. in the Marine too.
Oh yeah, that's right. Forgot about him.
And then the Miz has been the Marine for the last 4 movies. So he is the Marine. The last one that you're thinking about, Marine 6, Theo, that had the Miz in it, Shawn Michaels, Becky Lynch.
That's it. That's Becky was in that one.
And I'm just going through the cast real quick. I think that's it for actual wrestlers in that movie. So it had 3 wrestlers in it.
They tried to do a movie with Randy Orton. They tried.
Yes, I remember they were going to try.
Not great either. So
what was the name of that one?
Terrible.
Well, he was.
That's not the name of the movie.
he was in 12 Rounds too.
Oh, that's what it was. Yes.
And he was in The Condemned 2.
All right. And see there, I think The Condemned was another WWE production too, if I remember correctly. That was like a WWE Films.
It was, yes.
Yes. And so now we have Stone Cold. Let's talk about Stone Cold because he was in a bunch of WWE films, which I'm going to be.
I don't remember any of them.
Right. Well, the first Condemned, didn't that have...
though.
Yeah, I think he was in the first Condemned.
Yeah, he was. And didn't that have Vinny in it? Vinny, I can't think of his last name. Damn it. I'm going to have to look it up.
Vinny Jones.
Yes, Vinny Jones. Thank you. And because Vinny Jones was in that movie, I think it saved that movie from being a complete
a complete disaster.
Yeah, a complete disaster because Vinny Jones is really good and he plays a really good antagonist bad guy. And I wanted so bad to be like, that movie was really good. And I watched it. It's definitely watchable for me as a fan of action movies. But if you were going to give it a rating, it's still a B-rate movie by all means. It's not an A movie. It's not. It was in theaters, I believe. I think that one was in theaters.
It was 3 out of a 10.
I mean,
I watched The Chaperone. That was another WWE movie with Triple H.
Horrible.
I was just gonna say real quick about The Condemned. The only part of that movie I've ever seen was in like a YouTube clip of like the best lines before a character kills another character. And Austin saying to Vinny Jones's character is like, "Sounds like you've had a hard life." Yeah. Good thing it's over, so something like that. But
yeah, I can't honestly. I know there's a fight. I think they're fighting on a waterfall or some shit like that in some part in the movie. I think. I don't.
The other problem with that movie is that the premise isn't wholly original. It borrows a lot from a few other movies, about just gathering people together, throwing them on some island, and having them fight for the death.
Yeah,
It also actually came out before the Hunger Games, but the Hunger Games, as I found out, was almost a blatant ripoff of another movie, a Japanese movie. So, yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
Pretty much all the movies that WWE Studios have made have been train wrecks or not.
Bless you, sir.
Memorable.
You guys didn't like Leprechaun with Hornswoggle?
Oh
yeah,
my
sure.
God. I didn't like the original Leprechaun.
Well, I like the original Leprechaun. So
did that count as? Oh yes, it did count as a WWE film. I did not realize that. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
I'm gonna say, for all their aspirations, when you come right down to it, WWE films really just been a B movie factory, which is fine. But there was that really annoying period there when it was in its first couple of years, where
it's
they
like movie after movie after movie, and it's like, oh my God, stop.
And they were promoting so much.
And they were really just trying to make it seem like it was much more than it was, and it got annoying. Now it's like, as I'm looking at this list on Wikipedia, it's like I vaguely remember them like promoting a few of these here and there, but not to the way they did back when they first started off, which was probably, quite frankly, probably for the best. It's like,
then they put the Big Show in one too.
Yeah, but I saw some movie on here. It was made a couple of years ago with Edge and Lana, and I'm like, what?
Yeah. I don't remember that. But so, we talked about John Cena a little bit, and we talked about Hogan, but I want to go back to John Cena because John Cena has been in other movies that are not WWE productions.
No, and he's kind of become, I don't know if he's a star, but he's been in movies where he's been entertaining, and the movies have made money, and
yes,
people want him, and he's not The Rock where everybody wants him, but he's definitely found spots in movies and done well enough that people do want him. They put him in that kiddie movie about the fire department, so they did that with John Cena.
Yeah, and it seems like any action star has to do like their one kid film, like, because look at Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger did Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah.
It's not a tumor. That's the most famous line that came out of that movie. And that movie wasn't bad, but it wasn't by any means great.
Nah, it's average.
But it's like the call of the action star. Okay, you've done all these action films. They know you're a badass, but now let's put you in a kid's movie and see if you can be funny. That doesn't usually turn out so well. There's not too many actors that can pull that off that are action stars.
A role for him that I was hoping he would have been better in, and I feel like he was overacting, was in the Bumblebee movie.
Bumblebee, yeah. He was overacting in that movie.
And
he was trying too hard.
Yeah, you could just tell. Like, he seemed like this. He was trying to be like super serious, but like super serious John Cena wrestling, super serious, and it just was not working. I was like, oh, every time he came on, I started talking to him, like, oh, please, why did you do this, Cena? Who told you this was okay? Like, why did they be like, cut, stop, please?
I think the reason for that there's two reasons. The first one is this. So, he did his first couple movies there for WWE, The Marine, 12 Rounds, a couple others. They didn't really do any movies for a few years. And when he comes back and he started doing movies, it was Trainwreck, Sisters, Daddy's Home, The Wall, Daddy's Home 2, Ferdinand, Blockers, and then Bumblebee. So outside of The Wall, all of those movies were comedies. So I think that he was really trying to go back and say, look, I can play serious. I can play in action movies too. Please don't just like pigeonhole me as being like, second tier comic relief and all these other films.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and he's going to be in the new Fast Furious movie, so they've obviously given him another shot at the action thing. So,
right. Well, the other point I was going to say is that in Bumblebee, his character, he's not really a good guy, but he's also not a bad guy. I mean, I remember he at least had a line there where he's like, when they're in like the meeting with like the other like military brass, and he was like, wait a minute, is anybody else troubled by getting close to these things? They're called Decepticons. Hello, So I think that they weren't, I don't think he got necessarily clear direction on, hey, this is how we want you to play it, so just kind of your way through
and
it.
To be honest, the Bumblebee movie
he probably needed better direction for it.
And to be honest, the Bumblebee movie, and I really enjoyed the Transformers movie, but the Bumblebee movie was not that good.
Oh, and I liked Bumblebee, so
Bumblebee was better than probably all but the first Transformers movie.
Yeah, and and it's hard to live up to the first Transformers movie because that movie was so good as far as the other Transformers movies go. So
I definitely think Blockers was the best. I think Blockers was my favorite movie.
And that's the one I haven't seen yet.
Is that the one where he's like the parent?
And they're trying to stop their kids from having sex.
Yeah.
And he does the beer bong in his hole.
Yeah. I haven't seen that one yet either, actually.
Yeah.
So I think for Cena, Fast 9, Furious 9, F9.
I will tell with him.
Fuck you 9, whatever it's called. Between that and the Suicide Squad is going to determine if he can really. I don't want to say get up to rock level because nobody's getting up to rock level.
Nobody's getting up to that.
But I think those two movies will help determine if he can really be somebody.
Can he get to Batista level? I think he's trying to get to Batista level at this point. I think rock level's unreachable, but
Batista though is still really.
Let's not talk about Batista yet because we're gonna talk about him next.
What I'm just saying is Batista's still really only at like supporting player level. Like Batista's not somebody who you're going to put as like the star of a movie. If things go well between those two movies for Cena, there's still a possibility that people could say like, okay, he can be a star. We'll have to see. So, the fact that he's getting like a TV show based on his Suicide Squad character that is tying into that movie in some way, shape, or form will probably help. So
yeah, time's going to tell for him.
Well, and if you don't know this yet, but he's also going to be one of the hosts of the revamped Wipeout show.
That's not necessarily going to help him become a movie star, but okay.
Yeah, I saw a commercial for it the other day. I was like, oh no, this is not going to be good because Cena's not a comedian. I'm sorry, he's not a comedian. And that's what you need on that show, to make fun of the people. Like, that's the whole purpose of the people even being announcers, is to make fun of. And I just don't, that's going to be bad. But it'll be what it'll be. I don't cast these freaking shows.
To be determined with that one. We'll see.
So let's move on to Big Bad Dave Bautista, his acting career. So it's funny because I feel like the Bautista started off like actually in a really good spot because I always say this, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't his first like actual role as far as a feature film goes, wasn't it as one of the Guardians of the Galaxy? Or did he have something right before that?
He had I think 2 or 3 movies before that. He wasn't like the main person. But he was like supporting roles in those movies, or for the most part. But
he had appeared in The Man with the Iron Fists and Riddick before Guardians of the Galaxy. But
Man, the Iron Fist was I like it because I like those type of Japanese fighting movies.
Where Dave. Where was the charisma in WWE? Because we've seen it on the big screen. Where was that charisma when you were in WWE? Because it wasn't there.
Yeah. He's always. I remember him doing an interview with someone. He said that was like his because of his type of anxiety of being in front of people. It was hard for him to do promos in WWE, whereas like in a film portion, like he's more comfortable because if he fucks up, he can just
do it again.
Yeah, it's like retake until he feels like he gets it right. And he said he's been more comfortable where he hasn't had to like do a lot of retakes to do certain things. It's just 1 or 2, and then boom, he's done. Yeah, I kind of get where he's saying, because it's like you're on the spot in WWE, so you got to like roll with it. And I don't think he was as good with that as he was. Feeling comfortable wise.
His Funko Pop comes with the microphone. Like that, I never understood that. His Funko Pop, he's got a microphone in his hand on his Funko Pop. So was somebody that was a joke? I feel like an inside joke.
I think so. His Funko really Pop
came with a microphone in his hand.
And you give him a microphone. Like, really?
The interesting thing is when he came back after doing a couple movies, and had
He
that
was
last feud
better.
with Triple H, he was so much better on the mic.
Yes,
He was
Like
better.
I think at
he
his
was definitely way
acting,
comfortable.
like I wouldn't be surprised if he took some acting classes to help him get better with that, and be able to throw charisma, emotion, and stuff like that into his on-screen persona, because it was a lot better. It was still not the greatest, of course, but it anything was better than what it was. So we got better. The tantrums were pretty awesome and shit like that he would throw, and his coolness that he threw in there. So I think it definitely helped him in the WWE thing. But so he was behind the scenes character, because he was in Ip Man 4 too. He was in Ip Man 4. He was the main villain in Ip Man 4, which I love all those Ip Man movies.
And he played in James Bond too. A bad guy in James Bond.
Mm-hmm.
He was really good. He was really funny in Stuber.
Yeah, I mean, Stuber, that was funny. It was a dumb movie, but it's a stupid, fun, dumb movie, to be honest.
So
he also had a small role in Blade Runner 2049, but I thought he was really good in it. So just unfortunate that it's just such a small role. He was also in this movie called Hotel Artemis, which wasn't that great of a movie. It had an interesting premise, but the movie was a little But I actually thought he might have been the best part of that movie, to be honest.
So for me, Dave Bautista, I think, has, as far as anybody who's left wrestling, besides The Rock, of course, because we already know where he is, but that's ventured into acting, I think Batista has right now a bigger upside than John Cena, because of what he's already done and what he's being cast in. Because he's going to be in more Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Now, granted, he doesn't, not that his role isn't big, but he doesn't have a ton of speaking parts. But when he does, they're good. Like, it's done well.
His stone face humor sometimes is fabulous, because he doesn't always, he's like me sometimes. He's got stone face and he just says stuff. And I'm like, how is he not laughing as he's saying this?
I know.
So,
you're ugly. When he's telling her, you're ugly. How are you not laughing when you're saying that?
When you talk about him having more upside than Cena, he could very well. The thing that goes against him is that he's a few years older than Cena. He's already in his 50s. But the fact that he was cast as that role in Guardians of the Galaxy, and the fact that the movie ended up becoming a big hit, and so became they really solidified the franchise, that helps him. The fact that he's not really the leading character, like you said, I think also helps him. There's not as much pressure on you when you're not the leading character.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be very interested to see him in Dune, where he will be playing one of the chief villains. So that's going to be an interesting thing with him. I was going to say something else, and I don't remember what it was. I mean, I like Stuber too. I thought he was pretty funny in that. So, but and you're talking about a stone face humor. It's like the two lines from I think it was each of the first two Guardians. Like for the first one, where he's like, "Nothing goes over my head. If something went over my head, I'd catch it." and then the second one, of course, where he's all like, "I'm being so still that you can't see me." So, yeah, it does make you wonder how he can say some of those lines sometimes. But,
yeah. But it's awesome. I mean, the one movie I haven't seen is the My Spy movie, which, hey, action hero, let's put him in a kid movie.
I know. Yeah, another one, of course. I think for him,
the trailers for that at least look mildly entertaining. I haven't watched it yet either.
I have not watched it either. I will watch it.
It might be something that I'll stumble onto eventually. So yeah.
Now there was one movie that you mentioned, because I know we're kind of saving The Rock and some of the things that he's done for a little bit, but there was one that you mentioned, and I had to look it up because I never heard of it. They Live, which I found out had Roddy Piper in it. So that was interesting. I never knew he was in any movies or was a character in a movie, let alone that.
He did a couple of movies. That was probably his best one.
Roddy Piper did a ton of B movies. They were, you could even make the joke that they were C movies. Like he did like a lot of direct to video and direct to cable stuff, throughout like the 80s and 90s. I remember catching one years ago. I remember it was on HBO or Showtime, or it was one of the pay channels. He was like a convict in a prison who gets framed for the murder of this like white collar guy, and then he has to like go on the run. I don't remember what the hell it was called. I could probably find it if I looked, but
I've seen that one too.
Yeah, They Live is one of those cult classic movies. Because it's directed by John Carpenter, who a lot of his movies are kind of cult classics, like Escape from New York and The Thing and Halloween. The original Halloween. The original Assault on Precinct 13, he's the original The Fog, he's made a lot of movies like that. They Live is the one where he's just like this average common guy who finds this pair of sunglasses, and when he puts them on, he sees that like half the people in the city are aliens, and then all the billboards are actually sending out subliminal messages that said like obey, consume, and everything. So it's a cult classic for being like a satire on like consumerism and things of that sort, things that were very prevalent in the 80s, like when we had like stock market crashes again and shit like that was going on. It's also very famous for this fight scene between him and Keith David, the prolific African American character actor, where they have this like fight scene with each other on the street where they're actually friends, but he's telling Keith David to put the sunglasses on so that he'll see what he sees, and he doesn't want to have any part of it. And they have this like knock him out, knuckle dragging fight scene and everything, which is very famous. And probably the most famous part of the movie is he goes into the bank with like the shotgun and everything, and he's wearing the sunglasses, and all of a sudden everybody sees him, and he just says, I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass.
Yeah.
I'm all out of bubble gum. I wondered where the hell that line came from. I had no idea it was that movie.
That's where that line comes from. And he's fantastic in that movie. He really is, because like when I was doing some research for something for some of this, like over earlier in the day, like somebody said, the movie probably, could have used like Kurt Russell in it, since he worked with John Carpenter so many times, but Kurt Russell is just too pretty for this role. Because
too pretty. That's funny.
Kurt Russell looks like a movie star. And
yes, he does.
Kurt Russell does, of course, look like a movie star, especially in 1987. But he said, like, he needed somebody who was much more everyman looking, and Roddy Piper definitely fit that bill, and he did. So
definitely,
that's one of the things that's another thing that, of course, that makes it really such a cult movie too, is that you took what you could really say was like a non-actor and really made something out of it. So it's definitely one that I think most wrestling fans are familiar with.
Yeah. So I want to just put a quick shout out to our viewer that's watching right now. We got somebody. Oh, nope, never mind. They dropped off. Oh, sad. I was going to ask them to join in the chat. Yeah, well, it's all right. Oh, man. So who else? Was there anybody else that we didn't touch on that's been in?
Kevin Nash.
Oh, yes. Kevin
Magic
Nash.
Mike.
What?
He was in Magic Mike.
Yes, that is right. He was in Magic Mike. I wish I could say I forgot about that movie, but I have not.
A bunch of wrestlers I really like were in The Longest Yard too. So I'm being sarcastic there. So.
No, you're not. True to heart, you're being sincere.
The worst actor of all of the wrestlers, Mr. Goldberg, was in that movie. So he's awful. That's all I'm going to say about him.
But it was awesome because you had Stone Cold in that movie, the remake of The Longest Yard. You had Stone Cold.
It wasn't? I thought you were going to say because of Great Khali. I really thought that's what you were going to say. It was awesome. So
no. So here's the thing. Like, I know you're not a fan of Stone Cold. I know you're not a fan of Goldberg.
Austin's fine. Austin's done fine as an actor, though. I would never ridicule him. He's done perfectly fine. So.
But the funniest part of that is when they give them the feminine hormone drugs, they slip them into their steroids and then all of a sudden they're like namby-pambies, except for Stone Cold, who didn't take the steroids. And he's like cursing him out. I forget exactly what his line is, but he said something really fucking funny. But yes, the Great Khali's in it. And there is a really funny moment with the Great Khali in it, because it's not the Great Khali talking, of course, and saying anything funny. It's where he boots that dude in the face, and he's like, "He done broke my nose." He's like, and his Sandler's like, "Well, he probably didn't mean to do it." And Khali's like,
"What? I did. Yes, I did."
And then what does Sandler tell that dude that plays that character? I can't remember the guy that played the black gentleman, but doesn't he tell him it makes him look more like a young Michael or some shit like that? He's like, "Oh, it looks like a young Michael."
Like, oh, I think so. Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
what the fuck?
So, something about young Michael Jackson. He's all like, "I love little Michael."
It's like, oh my god.
Kind of creepy now, but
yeah.
But
Great Khali was also in Get Smart with The Rock.
Yes, he was, and
pretty funny. Get Smart too.
The most memorable scene that I have from The Longest Yard has nothing to do with a wrestler. It was with a terrible person in that movie, Michael Irvin from the Dallas Cowboys, because he plays like the bully, the bully in the yard who's got to
That's
teach
Jeremy's
Chandler a
favorite
lesson.
receiver of all time, just so you guys know. Like
floating on a cloud because I'm so high on my cocaine.
Michael Irvin suffered an injury in Philadelphia. The Philadelphia fans cheered.
I did not cheer. I'm not that kind of person. But I wasn't
cheered.
But I won't say that I wasn't glad to see him out of the game, because that gave the Eagles a better chance of winning, of course. So, no injury is a good injury, but it's, I wasn't sad about it either.
So
I'm looking at Pat's face to see if there's any reaction. He's just kind of like, I'm looking up something.
I'm trying to remember if there's any other movies.
Yeah, Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash was also in The Punisher. He plays the what is it? The I don't know what the hell his character was supposed to be. Was it a Russian guy?
He was supposed to be Russian. He was like a henchman assassin type. And the thing, of course, that
I just remember his shirt.
Thomas Jane stabs him during the fight scene, and he stabbed him for real. And supposedly Nash said that he was so high up on the adrenaline filming the scene, he didn't realize that he got stabbed for real.
Yeah, he's talked about that.
I don't get that myself. I'm like, if somebody's stabbing me, I think I'm taking notice.
Are we sure it was adrenaline that he was hopped up on in that movie?
I mean, Kevin Nash's best role was Super Shredder, baby. Yeah.
I forgot that he was super. I forgot that he was Super Shredder.
Yeah.
Super Shredder.
There's been wrestlers in these Expendables movies too, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Austin was in the first one.
He played the villain in the first one. Yeah.
I think he was a henchman again, more or less, but
henchman.
Henchman of bad guys.
We could definitely say as a whole, I mean, and there's a ton of movies that we could probably talk about, but as a whole, wrestlers have definitely been, as a majority, better as cameo roles. Very small parts, little speaking, it's just worked out better for them and it brings a little presence to the movie that you didn't expect. And as wrestling fans, we're like, oh, cool, he's in the movie. Or sometimes we're like, oh my God, he's in the movie.
Until this other person.
I was going to say the best wrestling cameo. It's actually a series of cameos, and it's in the MacGruber movie. When you've got Chris Jericho, Kane, MVP, Mark Henry, the Great Khali, and the Big Show, as these are like MacGruber's former squad who he's recruiting for this the new mission and everything. Except he crosses Big Show off the list when he finds out that Big Show's gay. But the other five, he has them waiting for him in a van or whatever, and all of a sudden the van explodes. And then like the next scene, he's like talking to like his boss. He was played by Powers Booth, and he's like, "They were nice funerals. Yeah, what did you think of my eulogies? Very touching. I might have cut back on the F words a little. Well, they were fucking great guys, and this is a fucking asshole of a day. Their children were there." So something like that.
I know this is really not a movie, but Edge did really well in the TV show The Vikings. He was on there for a couple seasons.
I remember Edge had a very small role in one of like the very bad Highlander sequels. He's in the movie, I think, for about 2 seconds. But actually, that doesn't cut a candle to what has to be the most random wrestler cameo, I think, of all time. Did either of you guys ever see the movie Shoot 'Em Up with Clive Owen and Paul Giamatti?
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, Christian's in that movie.
Yes.
Nope.
It's literally like a blink and you'll miss it moment where he plays like a security guard for some for some guy who I think turns out to be really like the guy who's like pulling the strings throughout the whole movie or whatever. He has no lines. He's just kind of there. Like there's really like no attention brought to it. I went to go see that movie in the theater partially because they said he was in it. And I'm like waiting the whole movie from the show, but then when he shows up, I'm like, wait a minute, that was it. I was like, what the hell? I was like, that was more random than if you ever see Ready to Rumble. If you look real quickly in the background of the one scene, there's John Cena lifting weights in like the background of the one gym scene of Ready to Rumble.
Wasn't Sheamus in the Turtles movie?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He plays Bebop.
Rocksteady.
Yeah.
No, Rocksteady, the Rhino. Yeah, Rocksteady.
There's there's a lot of other ones we haven't really kind of gotten to. We mentioned Kevin Nash. I mean, like Terry Funk was in a bunch of movies in the 80s.
He was in Roadhouse.
Macho Man was in Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah, Macho Man was in Spider-Man. Bonesaw.
Bonesaw's ready.
That is a fabulous cameo, by the way. I might vote for Savage for best cameo. He's awesome in that movie.
Yeah, he got to play himself. I mean,
pretty much.
What a different name.
Wrestling.
Nathan Jones was in Troy.
Yeah, let's not talk about him. He was basically worthless. Anyways.
I'm just.
Yeah, he was in Troy. Yep.
George the Animal Steel was in Ed Wood playing Tor Johnson, who was the pro wrestler who was in Plan 9 from Outer Space, and is most famous as being like the Halloween mask.
Our viewers back, by the way.
Besides Nathan Jones and Troy, wasn't there another wrestler?
Man on the Moon. There were people in that. Jim Ross and Lawler were in Man on the Moon.
Yeah, Lawler, of course, was playing himself. Jim Ross was actually supposed to be Lance Russell, which is pretty hilarious when you come right down to it, especially because the real Lance Russell played, I think, like the ring announcer for when they recreated the Coffin Lawler patch. And
so
I got to interrupt you for just a second because our viewer has returned, or at least a viewer is here. So I just want a big shout out to our viewer that's watching right now. We appreciate you coming on.
I know that this isn't really wrestlers in movies, but it was really awesome that year when they did WrestleMania Goes Hollywood and the wrestlers did the scenes from the movies. Those were pretty funny.
Yeah. Like so some people got to do like more like kind of like fun stuff than others in that. So,
but like John Cena and JBL were really good when they did A Few Good Men.
Yeah, they were both trying to do it seriously though. I mean, I kind of more enjoyed like.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, like I kind of more enjoyed like William Regal saying like run Eugene run, like Forrest Gump, and Ric Flair wooing at the donkey and like the Basic Instinct one where Christian just
the Basic Instinct one is fabulous.
Christian leaning forward. Yeah, how about sadomasochistic activity? Just to ask him.
And the one with Kurt Angle and Christy Hemme where they do like When Harry Met Sally, right?
Yeah, that was pretty funny. But yeah, the Batista doing the taxi driver. That might have been the first time we saw that Batista could do comedy.
Yes.
So I'm talking to you. Who else would I be talking to? Are you talking to me?
Those were funny. I just remember those. I just remember how funny those were, and they gave us like one a week. So those were pretty entertaining. So
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
One person we haven't mentioned yet, and that's really because, quite frankly, his acting career is almost entirely tied to Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that, of course, is
Jesse
Ventura.
Yes, we did forget about him almost, but I'm glad you didn't forget to tell.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if Arnold's in a movie, there's a good chance, Jesse Ventura was in it too. I mean,
at least in the 80s, yeah.
Yeah, the biggest ones were probably, Predator and The Running Man, which Ventura's pretty good in both of those, and he gets some good lines like, like, I ain't got time to bleed. He also showed up in Batman and Robin, which was, of course, that might have been the last time he was in a movie that Arnold was in. I'm not sure, but Ventura always, had a particular presence on screen too. So it's always obviously playing secondary roles, but yeah.
I liked him in The Predator, and I don't remember him in The Running Man. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie, but
I watched that not too terribly long ago. He was one of the I don't remember how they refer to them as like the trackers or like the guys who would go after the fugitives.
Right, and I remember that was his role, but I don't remember his character.
I think he's the one who finally basically refuses to participate, as like, Arnold's like killing all the other guys. I think he's just basically like, yeah, screw you, I ain't doing this. So
this is a bad idea. I don't feel like fucking dying.
I also just got, because, certain person down there always likes to compare me to him. I think we'd be remiss if we did not mention the Big Show's role in The Waterboy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Captain Insano.
You have to give it to, I mean, he was playing a perfect role because he was playing a wrestler. He's just doing a promo. And the Waterboy calls in Adam Sandler's character, Bobby Boucher. And it's funny how he starts ripping on him. He's like, how old? I bet you that guy ain't been laid.
Yeah,
he's just going off.
That's where I was going with it. It's great because, like, he's kind of like all charmed by what he's saying. He's like, how old are you, kid? 11, 12? I am 30 years old. He just starts laughing. Yeah. He said, I'll bet that guy's never been laid.
And The Big Show is in something currently. He's in a show called The Big Show, funny enough.
Yeah.
So, and it's not, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I watched it.
Yeah.
There's some funny parts in there, but it's an average show.
I put it on hoping that like my 9-year-old daughter might get interested to see, because trying to get her, 9-year-old kids, like, I don't know, like my 9-year-old daughter, I love her to death, but she is more into like TikTok shit and stuff like that, which she doesn't have because it's just not appropriate. But it's like hard to pull her off of like some of the more teeny things, which I wish she wasn't watching already. But we keep track of it the best that we can, as parents. But yeah. So that's when I saw that show, which is like I said, it's okay.
That's all right.
So I guess we got to talk about The Rock here for a little while because he's
real quick before we get to The Rock.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to. I kind of mentioned it in passing. Ready to Rumble.
Ugh.
Such a horrible movie.
Oh, it's terrible.
Well, I mean, Dave Arquette was in it too.
Yeah, what I wanted to say is there's kind of almost, at least in my mind, there's almost like a parallel between Ready to Rumble and No Holds Barred, in the sense that No Holds Barred, by the time it was released, WWF was kind of past like its peak, from like the rock and wrestling era. They weren't like down, but they were certainly on the way down at that point. So I really think that might have hurt. That just might have hurt, like, how much like business it did. Like if that had come out like a year or two earlier, wrestling was still like a little hotter. It might have fared a little better at the box office.
It probably would have.
Ready to Rumble, by the time that came out, WCW, that was released like right around the time where WCW did that reboot when like Bischoff and Russo tried to work together for about a week.
Yikes.
But it just kind of interesting because these were all the guys that got to appear in Ready to Rumble from the WCW roster. Goldberg, DDP, Sting, who I got to be honest, I don't remember Sting appearing in that, but let's see, I lost the list. Where did it go? God damn it. So I know there were a ton of other guys who were in there. Bam Bam Bigelow, Juventud Guerrera, Van Hammer, Kurt Hennig, Prince Iaukea, Disco Inferno, Billy Kidman, Conan, Rey Mysterio, Saturn, Booker T, Sid, and Macho Man.
Well, and if I remember, Ready to Rumble was based around WCW's program. Like, it wasn't like far-fetched. It wasn't like a made-up program. I'm pretty sure
they ended
even
up
called
using
it
that
WCW.
Triple Cage in a match on TV then. So
yeah, you also had like some of the Nitro girls, including Charmel, Mean Gene, Tony Schiavone, Mike Tenay, Charles Robinson. We're all there. And Chris Kanyon did the he did like the wrestling stand-in for Oliver Platt's character. So yeah. But the movie's just it's just
bad.
It's bad. It's not really funny. They really try to make it be like a comedy, but
I like Oliver Platt and I like Scott Conn, so like that that's probably the only reason why I didn't completely hate the movie, because I liked some of the guys that were in it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't really work because it just doesn't. I always give props to David Arquette, because when they brought him in to actually work for WCW, then
no props to David Arquette.
No. He did not take 1 cent of the money they paid him. He donated every penny that they paid him to the families of like Brian Pillman and Owen Hart and other wrestlers who had passed away. So, I always have respect for him for that. So, like, he didn't make any money off of doing what he did. He gave it all away. So I do give him credit for that. But
yeah, absolutely.
The less said about that movie, the better. But again, you always kind of saw the parallel to No Holds Barred, where it's like, so they made that movie like in 1999 when WCW definitely was starting to go down, and then it came out in 2000 where WCW's practically dead. It was still barely clinging to life then. So it's like, once again, well, if they made that movie in like 1997, and like it had come out in 1998, it probably would have done a lot better. Of course, it would have helped if it had been better quality too.
Yeah. All right. So before we move on to The Rock, just want to ask our viewers, anybody who's watching this or listening to this, find a way to leave us a comment. Especially, well, if you're on YouTube, it's really easy. But leave us a comment. What is like the worst movie that you ever seen that starred a wrestler? I'd like to know. I'd like to see what your input is, as far as what is the worst movie you've ever seen that starred a wrestler. I'm sure we could go off and name that, but each one of us could probably name one, but we're not going to do that because we do want to talk about The Rock, which is by far anybody who's ever come out of wrestling as far as a star on the movie screen. There's nobody that compares. And I'm not saying that because I'm a huge Rock mark. It's just the gosh honest truth. I mean, here's somebody who stepped off the first movie that they did. AJ helped me out with that.
Well, he did the Scorpion King.
The Scorpion King, thank you. So he does the Scorpion King, and you can already see in the Scorpion King that there's something there as far as his ability to be an actor. Do you know if he's going to be a leading man, actor, or the main role? You don't know, but there's something there to work with.
I don't know if we've ever seen anybody. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody, not just in wrestling, with more charisma than that guy. Like, he is a walking pile of charisma. So
he is.
So
he definitely is.
So you get the Scorpion King, and you're like, okay, this is a pretty good movie. It's a good action movie. He doesn't have, it's not like he's speaking the entire time, so it's not like he's got line after line after line. There's not the movie's not over dialogued. At least I didn't think it was. They had good supporting actors around him. The female actress was played by, was it Kelly Wu or Kelly Who? I can't think of how you pronounce her name. I know I'm probably thinking of the wrong person.
I think Michael Clark Duncan was in that movie.
Might have been. I think so.
So I was right. It was Kelly Hu. Yeah, Kelly Hu. So she's a good female supporting actress that's in that movie. And you're right, Michael Clark Duncan was in that movie.
He was also a big Rock mark at the time. So I think him getting to work with The Rock was like a big deal for him. So
and like the comedic relief played by Grant Heslov, who I don't know if he was in anything else that I saw. He was a good comedic release to The Rock's serious character in that movie. So there was a lot of good elements. Was it the greatest movie I've ever seen? Of course not. But like I said,
it was his first endeavor.
But you see something in that movie, something that could grow. And then after that, since I don't have his timeline of movies in front of me, from that,
Grant Heslov was in True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Tom Arnold. He was like
he plays the bad guy, doesn't he?
No, he was. Wait, no, he was the guy who kind of ran around with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Tom Arnold's character as like the guy who worked for the agency. He's also become more of a producer and a screenwriter over the years. Like he's producing partners with George Clooney, for example.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Okay,
but yeah, if you want to like for The Rock's like filmography, if it were, after The Scorpion King came The Rundown.
Okay.
Welcome to the Jungle, when it was originally called.
Yes, which I personally thought that they should have stuck with that name.
The Rundown was the first movie where we really see that's there with The Rock. Like, he is funny. Stifler or whatever, Sean William Scott's funny in that movie. They play off of each other very well. We got the memorable Christopher Walken line about the Tooth Fairy and that.
Wait, I feel wait. Do you understand the concept of the Tooth Fairy? I can't do my best walking right now. My voice is still fucked up.
The Rock was really good in The Rundown.
Yeah. So, and then after that, I have it in front of me now. I found his filmography. You got Walking Tall, which was another good movie.
It's a remake.
It was a remake.
It's a remake.
Short.
It was. Yeah.
I liked it because it was short. It was only like an hour and a half. It wasn't like they weren't playing games in that movie. It was kind of short and sweet.
But then he's in Be Cool. Now he's not a main character in Be Cool.
He was funny in Be Cool.
He was hilarious in that movie.
He was fucking hysterical in that movie. Yeah, and he was rolling the whole damn time he was in that fucking movie.
He was quite frankly one of the better parts of that movie because I really like Get Shorty, which that movie is a sequel to.
Mm-hmm.
But that movie came out too many years after Get Shorty, was not nearly as good as Get Shorty, so it was a disappointment to me. But he was not disappointing in that movie.
Yeah, no.
Then after Be Cool comes, in my opinion, his worst movie, Doom.
Definitely by far. Well, there's another one that's really, really close.
Doom is his worst movie.
Doom is just bad. Like whoever decided to make that movie didn't understand video game to movie concepe.
I wait. They could have done the best line in the whole movie. Fair, there's been motherfucker.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair though, there's been precious few good video game to movie adaptations.
Right. No, a lot of people have not figured it out. Like even the Lara Croft movies, those were okay at best. They were not great by any means.
Empire State was not a very good movie.
You could really make the argument that the best video game to movie adaptation was Sonic the Hedgehog. You know,
I've never seen that one yet. I plan on seeing it. But let's see. Then you got. I've never heard of Southland Tales.
I just want to kind of interject right here.
Sure.
This was about the time because he was pretty much done with wrestling at this point.
Yeah.
I was really starting to get worried that his career was going to crash. because I'm saying like, all right, Scorpion King, all right, fine. Rundown, pretty good. Walking Tall, yeah, but it was a remake. Be Cool, yeah, he was like 7th build. Doom, bad. And then like Southland Tales, which like really nobody went and saw. I don't care what anybody says. And and Gridiron Gang, I'm like, okay, like a feel good drama type. I'm like, I'm starting to say to myself, I don't know if he's getting great projects right now. I said he's gonna have
they threw a lot of shit at him. He was making a crap load of movies.
He needs to turn
movies a year.
He needs to turn this around quickly, and luckily, it didn't take too much longer.
His cameo in Reno 911 Miami's fabulous. Like he's only in it for like five minutes.
But I liked the Gridiron Gang. I thought that was a really good movie. But I'm a big sucker for those type of football, those kind of movies.
I haven't seen Gridiron Gang, so I can't say it's good.
Plus, we got to see Exhibit in a movie too.
What I mean is like that's not the kind of movie that's gonna like make you like ascend to the next level.
No, definitely not.
Then he signed the contract with Disney to make a bunch of Disney movies.
Yeah, Race to Witch Mountain
remake.
Actually, the Game Plan was the one that I actually think helped his career. I think that movie made money, and like he did that the action star playing the kiddie movie.
Yeah,
that's what the Game Plan was.
So yeah, between like, he did the Game Plan, and then he did Get Smart, and then Race to Witch Mountain, and then the Tooth Fairy, and then the other guys. It's like, okay, now you've like fallen back into doing comedies, which again is fine, but
the Tooth Fairy was pretty bad. So you're another one that
you're only going to get so far, and so it was almost really kind of feeling like maybe it's time for him to give wrestling one last whirl.
Well, then you got Faster, like you skip. You got the other guys, which I didn't like that movie. I thought that was terrible, but I'm not a big freaking Will Ferrell fan either.
It was okay.
That was hard to watch.
He was funny when he was in it, though. Like The Rock was funny when he was in it at the beginning. So,
but then you got Faster, which I never saw. Did anybody ever see the movie Faster?
I liked it.
Mm-hmm. I did not see Faster.
It was okay. It wasn't a long movie. It was all right.
But then you got what I think probably fixed his career was Fast Five.
Oh yeah, he fixed that whole franchise. That whole franchise went from being here to here when The Rock got in it. So
yeah, and I mean let's be honest. I mean that is the movie that was pretty. You really can definitely point to as like definite like boom. Okay, from there it really is when it started taking off. So
yeah. So I never saw Snitch.
I like that too.
Okay, so that's another one I'll have to go back and watch. But then you got G.I. Joe Retaliation, which was a good one. I liked it. A little far-fetched with some of the shit, but overall.
The thing with Snitch that I thought was good about it was that it looked like that, it was a different role, and that it wasn't an action movie and it wasn't a comedy. So I'm like, okay, that's good. Like, this may not like necessarily do box office, but he's challenging himself as an actor then too, because that will help down the road.
Yeah.
Then he plays Hercules.
Oh, he did Pain and Gain first. Pain and Gain I really liked Pain and Gain. That movie.
Pain and Gain was a good movie.
Yeah. Well, Empire State was a pile of poop.
Yeah,
Empire State. I refused to go watch that, not because of The Rock, just because I was like, this is the movie made off of Rampage, and if I'm thinking the right movie, right? I'm thinking of the correct movie, right? Or was that actually Rampage?
No,
that was a Rampage movie too.
Oh, okay. So I am thinking
later
of
on.
Movie. My bad.
Empire State was another one of his duds. So
yeah, because what was Empire State about? Like, you said that was a video game to movie.
I hadn't even heard of that, but I'm seeing it was direct to video, and it's like I'm kind of finding that a little funny that it was direct to video, but.
So
yeah, it definitely was.
Pain and Gain's another one that I don't think everybody thought that movie ended up being better than I thought it was going to be. I actually enjoyed that movie quite a bit.
Well, it's funny to see The Rock play somebody that's mentally, like, just not mentally there.
Well,
his character's
I know-
really dumb.
Yeah, I know that there was like some little bit of controversy about that movie because it was based on a true story that seems like really too incredible to be true. But it is. But it's also like a black comedy, so black comedies are tough sells sometimes.
Yeah,
Did we mention Get Smart? Did we mention that one? Oh, we did.
Yeah, we said when he was like in a thing where he was just like doing comedies.
And I'll be honest, I didn't really care. Hercules, I didn't really find to be. There's so many different variations of Hercules, and I didn't like that adaptation of Hercules.
And I think that was the year both Hercules movies came out.
Yes.
The other one came out first, and then I think at the beginning of the year, like spring, and then his came on later on in like the summer or something like that. So it was kind of like very, very odd that they released.
Fast 6 came out before Hercules, and Fast 6 is another movie that made a boatload of money. So that's 5 and 6 are my two favorite Fast movies. So
And
like those
Fast 7. So there's another. God, I'm just wondering when the Fast and Furious movies are going to be over. Like, I know I know AJ loves them.
Keep going to see them. They're as long as people like me keep going to see them, they're going to keep making them. So
I thought it was something that they were going to stop after 10 or 11.
But they can still do more Hobbs and Shaw stuff though, which I think we're going to get another Hobbs and Shaw movie eventually, I think. So
probably.
So then we got San Andreas, which I didn't see that movie, but I heard it was not
an action
good.
flick.
Yeah.
San Andreas to me is like what was that movie with the tornadoes?
Twister.
Yeah, that's what I compare it to. Like
Twister.
It was an okay. Is an average action movie about the Earth kicking our ass, pretty much.
And then you got Central Intelligence, which
starts his thing with Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
We started his thing with movies with Kevin Hart.
Him and Kevin Hart together are definitely funny.
Yes, they are. They are perfect. They are like a perfect tandem.
Yeah. And then of course Moana, which
you're welcome.
What?
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome. Which even though he was only the voice of a character, was another movie that really propelled his career like forward beyond where it was, because it was so recognizable. It was such a good, well done Disney movie that his voice became very, very recognizable as a character. And the fact that he sings in the movie and does a good job with the singing portion is just another thing that added to his resume and abilities. So
I think Fast 5 was a point where he jumped up a level, and then I think Moana, he jumped up another level, and then I think Jumanji was another big move. Like those were the three movies I think that propelled him to different levels.
Now I did like him in Baywatch. I like him in the Baywatch movie.
Not a lot of people did, but I thought it was entertaining. So
I liked Baywatch as well. I'm not gonna lie.
I liked it because of the fact of his interaction. Like if they didn't have, I think they cast the right person with, goodness gracious, I can't remember
Zac
his
Efron.
name. Yeah, Zac Efron. Having him be the antagonist to The Rock's character of Mitch Buchanan. I think that worked. I think for me, that's what made that movie enjoyable to watch. So
absolutely.
And of course you get the cameo at the end with fucking
Hasselhoff.
Yeah. The Hoff, which was really funny. So that was really funny in the end of the movie. And of course, you said, you got Jumanji, which catapulted his career. Rampage, which I will not watch. Like that's just.
I watch it. Just another average movie.
Skyscraper is another one of those.
Yep, average movie.
Yeah, he was fabulous. He was fabulous when he was in Fighting with My Family.
Yes.
He got to play himself.
Right. Small role, good part for him, And then of course you got the Hobbs and Shaw spin-off movie.
Yep.
Which was very entertaining, and that was Roman Reigns' on-screen debut.
Yes. And then Ballers, which was this TV series, which started in 2015, which I never got to see because I don't have HBO or anything like that. But
I love that series. I enjoy watching it.
When I've seen bits of that show, I've always thought he was playing the role that he plays pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you got Jumanji: The Next Level. So I mean, it's just movie after movie.
The first one was better, but I still liked the second Jumanji movie. So
I liked him playing Danny DeVito. You know, in the second one, you know, it's like, you know, what's Jumanji? You know?
I liked it better when they went back to the characters they were in the first one. So I liked it better when they were.
Welcome to the jungle.
So, and evidently he's got another project that IMDb lists here. Taylor Swift, The Man. I guess he's just a voice in that movie or whatever the hell that's supposed to be.
Well, he's got the Disney Jungle Cruise movie coming up.
Black Adam.
Yes.
Which, you know, was supposed to come out last summer, and now it's like sometime this year, hopefully.
At some point.
Which I thought the trailers were intriguing enough that I had kind of gotten sick of like Disney making like their theme park movies because their first couple ones sucked. But
except for Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, you could argue they got progressively worse. But anyway, but the trailers for Jungle Cruise made me think that they're taking a bit of a lighthearted enough feel to it, and I like that he's wearing a cap that reminds me very much of the cap that Humphrey Bogart's character wore in The African Queen. So I am anxious to see that. And the other thing that he's got some movie called Red Notice coming up that says was directed by the guy who did Dodgeball, and it also features Gal Gadot and Ryan Reynolds, which it says is going to be a Netflix exclusive release sometime this year.
I think it should be soon, actually. They've been promoting it more lately.
And he does have a TV series coming out called Young Rock.
I'm very much looking forward to. Actually,
I'm a little worried about that. Like,
is it this Tuesday coming up when that starts?
Yeah.
I think, isn't it?
I think they're premiering Tuesday.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about that. Like, I get worried when I see projects like this that come out. Like, you know, like they did Young Sheldon, and like I wasn't a big Big Bang Theory person, but
me neither.
It's like sometimes you just gotta leave well enough alone, and you know, we'll see. Only time will tell with his series, because
they're going to show him growing up in the wrestling thing. I think it might be more appealing to us.
Yeah, well, he's just got a shitload of projects coming up. I mean, one I see on here which scares me is San Andreas 2.
As Jim Cornette's co-host said on their podcast this past week, I can't wait to see how they depict Rocky Johnson being a good parent.
Yeah,
I know.
And that was my problem when I started watching the previews. I'm like, this is it's like a comedy show. It's like that's what worries me, because I don't know anything about his dad or his grandfather or his mother or anything like that. I don't know anything about them, but can you imagine his dad being the jokester kind all the time, like this big jokester? And like, I think they're like overplaying the whole like comedy end of it and not making it more realistic.
Well, I mean, it's about his life, like a adaptation of his life, but it's, you know, it's a sitcom, so they gotta be.
Yeah, I don't know a great deal, but I think that his father was you know, being that he was working for WWF, was gone for quite a bit of his childhood. So, you know,
we'll see how it goes.
Yep, we'll give it. We'll have to watch and grade it as we watch.
Yeah, and like AJ, said, the Black Adam movie's been there on the back burner for God, I don't even know how long.
They're filming it now. They're doing stuff right now.
I don't remember how long ago it was that I first heard them like mention that, though. It's like that's all I'm saying. It's just like it was like first talked about like a few years ago.
For what?
Black Adam.
So for me personally, This is where you guys might. I feel like The Rock was a better version of Hogan in everything. He was a better on the mic. He was a better wrestler, and now he's a better actor. And I take solace in the fact that The Rock has become a better version of Hulk Hogan to me. Like, he's been better than him in everything. So
one thing that I also think helped The Rock as opposed to Hogan was that wrestling had become much more mainstream, much more nationally recognized.
Very much so.
When The Rock was in his prime, than even when Hogan was in his 80s prime. And so I think there were, and I don't really know this, of course, but I have a sense that there were people who were making decisions in Hollywood and everything, who took wrestling a little bit more seriously, or just weren't as dismissive of it, and so better projects found him or came his way. And he didn't have to worry about. He didn't have to go with Vince McMahon into a hotel room to rewrite a script for a movie, and shit like that. So, that definitely.
Here's the thing: I followed The Rock on social media, and this dude, he has an insane routine, work ethic, whatever freaking words you want to throw out. It's insane. He wakes up at 3:00 in the morning and does his first workout. Then he's doing other shit. And then he works out twice a day. He's always doing something that has a way of bettering his craft, bettering himself. He's just got an insane fucking work ethic where I can't say, I don't know what Hogan's work ethic is because they didn't have social media back there. We only knew what we saw on the TV. Yeah. But I have a hard time believing that Hogan, when it came to acting and his other abilities that he might have wanted to try and hone, that was that dedicated to it. The Rock is that dedicated to everything that he does. He doesn't skimp on anything. If he's doing something, it's 120%, and that's all you're getting until, either it fails and he gave it everything he could, or it succeeds. One of the two.
I got everything. The Rock's tequila. I love that shit, and I'll be buying his energy drink that comes out March 1st. When I find a store that sells it around where I live, I will buy it and try it. That's for sure.
Yeah. It's cool that he really did he had his time in WWE, and he really did use it as a stepping stone to where he's at now. And he didn't do it in a bad way. He did it in a smart way, and he did it the right way. And I don't think we're ever going to see somebody with that much charisma in our lifetime. So I just don't, it's especially not in wrestling. I don't think we're ever going to see somebody.
Probably not.
Close.
All right.
Close.
So
because I know Jeremy wants to get us to our fun spot here.
Yes.
Let me just throw this out real quick.
Get on with it.
I have a feeling we'll all have the same answer for this, but is there anybody who is a current full-time wrestler? So full-time wrestler who we can see being the next guy to break through into movies the way that Rock or Cena or Batista has?
No, I don't see it. I mean, there could be, but I can't think anybody that's currently on a roster that would be able to break into movies and be successful like that.
All right.
So
maybe MJF. I don't know. He would be somebody that I think that there's, because he's already dabbled with that when he was younger. He's young too. That's the problem. You have to pick somebody. Do I think 20 years ago if Chris Jericho would have tried? Maybe, but he's 50 now. So it's not like you can really start doing that now. But look how long it took The Rock to get where he is. It's not like it happened overnight. You have to get your foot in the water and make some bad movies to get to the, I don't know if Jericho had tried it 15 years ago, I think he could have maybe had some success, because I think there's potential with him. And
see, that's the thing. What Jericho has said on his podcast, he tried. He said it is so hard to get into, to even once you get into the casting, of the movie, and you get your reads or whatever they do. He said it is so hard, to get to even that point, and then to be able to read for the director or whatever is a whole nother thing. But he tried. But once again, I don't think he had the work ethic that
No.
like some people have a certain work ethic. Like Mark Wahlberg has the same kind of work ethic. That motherfucker is insane. He's like The Rock. He's fucking insane. Like every minute of his a day is planned out to, based on is he making a movie or not? It's crazy. Those are the people that are fucking successful. I mean, honestly, when you saw Mark Wahlberg as Marky Mark, did you really think he was ever going to be an actor? Like this guy's is a okay rapper. Like the next thing you know, he's in fucking movies. Did you ever think that was going to happen?
I mean,
him and his brother. Yeah, I mean,
Sasha
never really thought
Banks,
about it.
Mercedes, Sasha Banks, she's young enough too that, she's dipped her foot in the water. So she's somebody else who potentially down the road, like she's dipped her foot in the water at least. She's young. The problem is I'm trying to pick somebody who's like under the age of 30 here.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't think that's necessarily has to be something, but I mean, Sasha, I think is a good pick, and even though I didn't see Hobbs and Shaw, I could see Roman breaking through.
Possibly,
if
yeah.
he wanted to. I mean, he's already 35, but at the same time, it's like you do have to wonder about, because he has had health issues and everything, which that actually could prevent him from becoming a movie star.
But he does. He also has Dwayne, who can probably get him into a movie. Like he has an in for sure.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, if he did have any more like health scares, like, the insurance cost might, scare people away. And
because he doesn't really talk. He doesn't talk in Hobbs and Shaw. He doesn't really say anything.
No.
He does the hoo-ah, but he doesn't really talk. He doesn't.
Well, besides Sasha, since she's already done it, I really can't picture anybody else. I mean, something could surprise me.
What?
Did Rock talk in Mummy Returns? No.
Well, no, because he was animated.
Well, still, I'm just saying, you never know. So
yeah, I don't know. But with that last question, we are moving on to Mount Rushmore. It is Mount Rushmore time. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, that's my little theme music for Mount Rushmore, since we don't have official theme music yet, because I'm just not.
Don't quit your day job writing music.
Well, I don't plan on it, so that's good. All right, so I have a particular order that everybody's going to go in based on the fact that I was making our Mount Rushmore picture earlier. So AJ, you are up first, and just give me a second because I gotta get your photo up here first that I want to share.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, AJ. What is your pick?
I'm taking Fast Five because Pat actually alluded to it. That's a perfect picture. Remember when Vin Diesel was jacked? He looks like a pussy standing next to The Rock in that movie. So he totally did. Like looking at the two of them, I just remember when the first Fast and Furious, oh my God, Vin Diesel's cut and he's jacked. Then you see The Rock come trudging in. I'm like, holy shit. It was like looking at two different people. So
very true.
Like Darth Pat alluded to, that really is the movie that I think really changed The Rock's career completely, was Fast Five, and changed that whole franchises. That the first movie was pretty good. The second one was, and the third one I didn't really like. And then they kind of rebooted it, and that one was decent. But then Fast Five happened, and we got to see Hobbs, badass Dwayne Johnson as Hobbs, and he had some one-liners even in that one. And we got to see Vin Diesel and The Rock fight. I mean, when I went to see that movie, I'm like, oh yeah, we're gonna get to see The Rock and Vin Diesel fight in this movie. So, and we did. And those movies now, it's like, what is the most ridiculous thing you can possibly come up with to top the previous one? So
yes.
Back in Fast Five, we were somewhat in the realm of reality still. So them pulling the safes down the road was a little bit more believable than the submarine stuff and them pulling the airplane out of the sky. So the end of the fifth one to me was the last time where I'm like, all right, this could happen if a lot of things went right. Once we got to the sixth one, I'm like, all right, we're on a 45-minute runway here trying to pull a plane out of the sky. So he was really good in Fast Five too, and I because I really do like that franchise. I enjoy them. I still go see them. I still pay money to see the most unrealistic shit they can possibly come up with. So I went back and forth. I went back and forth between 5 and 6, just because in 6 we did get to see Vin Diesel and The Rock do the Doomsday device together, which was pretty awesome too.
And
so
I think it's really funny that Vin Diesel, when Hobbs and Shaw spinoff came out, he got very offended.
He was very butthurt, and that's why Cena's in the 9th one instead of Dwayne. But so apparently they've buried the hatchet and everything's fine now between. So everything's all. So Fast 5 is my favorite Rock movie. So we'll just leave it at that. I don't even have to say a movie with a wrestler because he's going to be my favorite for that.
All right, Theo, you are next. And just give me 1 second here. All right, I'm prepped. I'm ready. Go.
So this actually was not easy for me because I've seen a lot of wrestling movies and movies with wrestlers in there. So if you're trying to pick a movie that does not have The Rock in it, I mean, I could have picked Batista, which I was thinking about doing, but he's not really the star of the movie. And since Mr. Pat was being particular about being stars of the movies, this was challenging for me because even the one I picked, I mean, he's in it for a decent amount of time. I mean, he's a bad guy. So I like
Santa Slay with Goldberg.
Oh God, please. So I picked Blade Trinity with Mr. Triple H here.
It's Prince.
Listen, it's a comic book movie. I like Blade overall, and Triple H played a good bad guy vampire.
He was good in that movie. So
yeah, he did some wrestling moves in that movie and his fight scenes and all that stuff. And yeah, I just went with that. That's really all I can say. Not much.
The dog definitely looked like my dog Prince in that movie. He 100% looked.
Yes, the dog definitely did.
Yeah.
So this was a challenging one for me. So that's what I am going to go with because, you
went with a comic book movie.
Yeah, because Darth Pat shot down my other one that had like 8 wrestlers in it.
That's all right. That's all right because Darth Pat's, while yours was a stretch a little bit, Darth Pat's is even more of a stretch with the star role. So Darth Pat, go ahead with your pick of wrestlers in movies.
What the fuck are you talking about? Stretch with a star role. I never said it had to be the starring role.
Oh, that's what it sounded like to the rest of us.
No,
you turned down my wrestler once. I like the wrestler.
I said we're focusing on movies we're focusing on wrestlers in movies as opposed to movies about wrestling. So I said that's why I didn't really want to have like the wrestler or Nacho Libre or stuff like that.
But Ernest, but there were wrestlers in that movie, so Joe could have picked that one potentially.
Yes, he really could have. But I mean, we're also still talking about more features than like cameos, because in the wrestler it's really just cameos and stuff. So
it's fine.
Anyway, so my pick was The Princess Bride because I think it's the movie that I think most people kind of know as hey, that's the movie with Andre the Giant. I think a lot of people regard it as such, but that's also a movie that's that's pretty close to being like a perfect movie in terms of that it has a lot of different components to it. It's a comedy, it's a romance, and it's an adventure movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a lot of really good stuff and a lot of really good actors doing a lot of funny lines, this and that. And Andre plays a role that probably precious few people other than Andre could have played because of the physicality that's involved with it. Obviously he's still a little incomprehensible at times, of course, because Andre's accent was like that at times.
Just a tad.
Yeah. But the movie is very memorable. I mean, it's very quotable. I mean, still you get around to people and just say like hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. Killed my father, prepared to die. So, yeah, it's just such an enjoyable movie. It's one of those movies you can watch really at any time. And it's it's very original in a lot of ways too. Because it's largely fantasy. So that's what really makes it really cool. And just the fact that they got Andre the Giant for it just really, like I said, makes it all the more memorable. And then also, not that this really has much to do with anything, the fact that they made a movie loosely based on what happened during the making of The Princess Bride is kind of interesting in and of itself as well. That movie, of course, turned out to be My Giant with Billy Crystal and George Mirasan, which by all accounts, from what I've heard, was pretty terrible. But just the fact that, they made a movie that was like loosely based on Billy Crystal's experiences, working with Andre on that movie, I just found that to be pretty interesting. So Princess Bride is my pick.
I love that movie. It is a good movie.
I agree. I love that movie too. I could watch that any day.
Not I.
Yep.
Not high.
AJ has no heart. No.
Not surprised. But I do have a funny tidbit. When I said, The Princess Bride is one of the movies, my wife then said, did Pat pick that movie? And I said, yes, he did.
Well, just to throw it out there, if I had to pick Princess Bride, I was going to pick They Live. So,
yeah. All right. So that leads to my pick for movies. And my favorite movies having a wrestler in it is The Rundown.
I thought you were going to say Gem.
Oh God, no. So The Rundown is definitely my favorite. It was, for me, it was the first time that I saw The Rock with like that superstar quality where he had funny lines. He was doing action. There was serious parts to it. And he had a great supporting cast on that movie. He had Christopher Walken. He had
Stifler. Sean William Scott.
Yeah, Sean William Scott, because it's too many names. Why you got to have 3 names? But anyways, he Rosario Dawson's in that movie. Just a great cast. So it wasn't like you got to depend on The Rock to carry the movie. You had other people in that movie that could, even if The Rock would have not been so good, you had other people that were going to carry that movie to make that movie really great. And there's so many good lines in that movie. When they're, the one line that Pat was mentioning with the Tooth Fairy.
Go away, monkeys.
Yeah, the monkeys.
The monkeys. Because he can't talk because I forget what he ate or drank or whatever.
Yeah, they ate like this fruit that like kind of sort of like tranquilizes you.
And he beats some ass at the beginning of the movie in the bar. I think he rock bottomed somebody through a table. So
yes.
Yeah, there's I remember that opening scene and that like he's walking into the club. Who's walking out of the club? Arnold freaking Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger just kind of looks at him with this disgusted look on his face and he's like, have fun. As if like the club's a drag. But then like when he's talking about all the football players, because he's after like one of the football players, they're like doing like the sports presentation and with like listing like the players like attributes and shit. And then like when after he goes and he beats the shit out of all of them, it lists his measurables as like 6'4", 220, and I'm like, The Rock 220.
He's definitely not 220.
Yeah. So, I mean, and then of course the scene where they're going to swim in the water to go into the underground thing. And he's like, you be careful. Rosario Dawson's, be careful. There's little things in the water. Then they'll swim up your pinto. And she's like, what the hell's a pinto? They're like, your penis. I forget what the hell she calls it. A Johnson penis, dick, or I know she doesn't say dick, but he's like, ain't nothing swimming up my pinto, It's just a funny ass line. And it's so simple, but just funny things. I mean, the fight with the monkeys when they're hanging from the freaking trees, when they're caught in that thing and they're hanging from the trees, the fight with the monkeys is funny. The fight that he has with the little, supposed to be a indigenous
Rey
person.
Mysterio?
That wasn't Shut up, it's not Rey Mysterio, you ass. That dude's actually a martial artist, like a serious martial artist. I can't remember his name, but I've seen him in other things too. But he has that fight, which is crazy.
I'm pretty sure that's what my thought process was when I saw the movie. Even
I'm sure it was.
Probably.
But just top to bottom, like it was just a really good movie. I could watch it again and again. I probably did at one point in time when I didn't have cable. I didn't have anything when I was living on my own. I think I probably watched that movie like 30 times, and it just never got old. So it's cool. So just to recap,
that movie's freaking 17 years old already now.
I know, it's crazy. So just to recap our Mount Rushmore of movies that had wrestlers in it or even starred a wrestler, we have the Fast Five. Oh, I can't pull this out of. I got the Fast Five. We've got Blade Trinity, The Princess Bride, and The Rundown. So interesting enough, two movies have The Rock in it, of course, because it's hard not to find movies without The Rock in it.
This was the most predictable one we've ever done. Like, I knew as soon as this was the topic that me and you were taking a movie with The Rock. I figured Joe was going to take a comic book movie, and I figured the historian was going to take a movie with somebody pre-1995 in it. So
it's so funny.
And like I said, it's just funny that even my wife figured that Pat took The Princess Bride. Like, that's just even my wife knows Pat well enough to know that Pat's going to pick something that's kind of different.
Unfortunately for Pat, he couldn't. Hogan's movies are horrible, so he couldn't take one of Hogan's movies. He had no choice. He had to skip that on this one.
Yeah, come on. I would never pick one of Hogan's movies. I said they were all B movies and everything.
So that does bring us to the end of our show. It's been a fun show. It's been interesting to talk about movies with wrestlers in it, cameo roles, major roles, where they fall on the scale of what was good, what was bad. Interesting to see maybe who becomes the next big star. If
there is one,
if there ever is one,
yeah.
That's a wrestler, transitions into movies and stuff like that, or even is signed at kind of a star. Like maybe John Cena will be kind of a star. We're on the fence with Dave Bautista whether he'll be kind of a star. So it's going to be an interesting road. But since it is the end of our show, we're going to end it like we always do, and we're going to say good morning, good afternoon, good night, and we'll catch you on the next episode.